Hey guys, welcome to Randy's Road Life. I have an interesting video for you guys. Um, I haven't done one in a while, so I'm gonna do a few of them over the next week, whatever, maybe more. I got some interesting things to share with you guys. So, anyways, where I went last, where I was just at, unfortunately, I had to go to a Chicago company. I know. I said I wouldn't do it. But I was in a really bad financial bind because of the fleet that was leased on the BMAC, it's called Roller X, put me in some serious freaking debt, and I had to crawl my way out of it. It was difficult, but I did it. And I came to Cargoboss, and I had to just go with the first company that could get me in, just so I could try to make some money. And I made some money at Cargoboss. Was nothing to write home about. They have a lot of claims at Cargoboss. They claimed you can make up to $4,000, $4,000 a week. Um, they they're they claim high rates. They claim averages that are way above the normal average you see today as far as gross. So for a step deck, I'm told that you're supposed to average between 9,000 and 12,000 a week gross to the truck. If it's an RGN, which it takes about 3 months to get into an RGN at Cargoboss, they do have nice RGNs, but that one is that gross is actually significantly higher than the step deck. But in my experience, anyways, I can't speak for everybody else. I only ever hit it once. That was, man, I had a horrible dispatcher. We'll call him Mr. V, right? I had a horrible dispatcher. And he sold me out to loads on a regular basis. And the straw that broke the camel's back with this guy was he offered me a load to go to Tampa, of all places. Now we do primarily oversize here at this company, and I had a step deck at the time, and you just don't take that to Florida, especially Tampa, because you're way down there in Tampa, right? You're practically in the middle. We're not in the middle of the state, but you're west center, of the state, I guess if you want to call it that. But it's a long ways down there, and you're not going to get a load down there. Nothing is going to pay, and so you have to deadhead 500 miles to get a load. So I had to turn that load down, and then what really pissed me off is that he forced dispatched me, picking up a load there in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area, going to Williston, Vermont, which is right there by Canada, off of not far from I-87. There's nothing up there, guys. There's nothing up there for reloads. So I sat up there for 3 days, and I requested a new dispatcher, which I got one. We'll call him Mr. D. He seemed pretty cool. I have no complaints with him. Unfortunately, he came in at the back end of a horrific dispatcher that I had. That was man, my grosses never got really close to the average gross I was supposed to make. That's by what Cargoboss claims, and that's what they had told me. Every time I brought this up and I had these bad weeks, just give it another chance, just give it another week, and it was always that, and it just never panned out. And then this dispatcher just, he forced dispatched me, and he sold me out to loads, sending me to places where you can't make money. There's no loads there, and you have to deadhead 300-400 miles. And you don't get paid for deadheading. You don't get paid for that, So, and if you when you add that into the rate, it significantly waters down what you're actually getting paid. Once you break it down by cents per mile, I mean, you're practically making 55 to 60 cents a mile. And I'm not an entry level driver by any means, so that's not acceptable whatsoever. But that was unfortunately the case. And I had a couple issues with accounting, but it eventually got smoothed over. So, and then another issue with Cargoboss is they don't have PC, guys. No PC here. You cannot. It's not even active on your mode of ELD. You cannot use it, and so that put me in some binds. And I'm sure you guys know how that works. You run out of time at a shipper or receiver, and then what? You can't legally do anything at that point. And then what do? You go an hour service violation. There's nothing else you can do. And I had to do that, running out of time with nowhere to park at a receiver or a shipper, and then you have to violate your clock and find a parking spot. And it seems the young lady who runs the safety department has no idea how PC actually works. And me and her had a debate about this. Being forced dispatch was the way he did it was very disrespectful. Because he offered me the load to Tampa first. And that's a horrific load in and of itself. Then he forced dispatched me on the Minneapolis load. Another thing he did is we had some military loads. He sold me out to that load. It wasn't necessarily a bad load, but I was 700 miles away. So 700 miles of deadhead. The load turned out to be a 3,000 mile load. 700 of it was deadhead. I told this guy that I did not have enough time to deliver the load on time. And it caused me to have to do a reset, a 34-hour reset during the load, while the load was in transit, which the problem with that, because in Cargoboss, you don't get paid unless you're part of their banking system that they use in order to pay you. You don't get paid until Mondays, right? So they deposit money on Friday, you get paid Monday. So I've now probably, I think a couple times I got paid on a Saturday. I don't know how that happened. I guess it depends on at what time they deposit the money. But getting paid on Mondays is horrible. So you get your statement Thursday or Friday. And then if there's any discrepancies, you take it up with the accounting lady. And what the safety department is atrocious, because dealing with someone who doesn't have a clear understanding of how the ELD actually functions according to DOT officers and state patrol officers, like those of us who have spoken, had conversations with these guys, about ELDs and PC and all that stuff. We understand how the whole thing works, and even from their perspective. But this person it was frustrating dealing with them on that level. And then the company not having PC, and what they said about that was that some guys had violated PC many times in the past, and so they just took it from everybody, which is wrong. I don't know how you punish the whole fleet by what some guys did. That should be on a case-by-case basis. You misuse PC, you'll lose it. I can understand that, right? But you get put into a bind, it forces you to violate your hours of service. And what can you do about that? And hopefully you don't get pulled in. They don't audit your logs. Sorry, I'm very tired. It was just wasn't the worst experience I ever had, but it's more along the line of the misleading marketing. Now the equipment was pretty good. The first truck I had was an International LT, and it was bad. It was bad. So I had a problem with that, and then I had to swap out of that truck, and I ended up getting a T680. It was a mid roof. It was pretty nice. I had the PACCAR 510 horsepower motor. It actually drove really well. The motor was powerful. I didn't have any problems with it really. So another thing about Cargoboss is you don't have headache racks. Now there are a few trucks I saw that had headache racks. I guess it depends on the truck itself. But I didn't have headache. Most of the trucks don't have headache racks, and so what happens is you have two toolboxes on your trailer, and then you have to stuff all your equipment in, and also under your bunk. So you don't have room for anything else. It's just they give you a lot of good equipment. You get a lot of equipment, everything you need, but you just lack space for it. Then they want you to carry chains so you can go out west, especially in Colorado, because they get loads out of Colorado, but you just don't have enough room to carry all those chains in order to satisfy the law out there in Colorado, the chain law. So I had to nip that in the bud and tell my dispatcher, that while the chain law is in effect, we can't go out there because I don't have room for chains in the truck. So that part sucked. Even if I wasn't going to use them. So what else? Shoot, man. It wasn't a horrible experience, but now this is what kind of made me upset. Today, so I left, right? Came back home, got my stuff out of the truck, and they sent me a termination thing to sign that said I wouldn't talk about the company and disparage them and all this other stuff. And so they try to get me to sign a gag order is what it is. And I'm going to post that on here. Obviously you saw that what you see here on here as the title screen is that gag order they tried to hit me with. And I'm actually going to post it in the community posting too, so that way you can go on there and read it yourself and you'll see it. It's that right there kind of pissed me off. And what I did is I took my little pen out from my phone and I wrote across it that I disagree and refuse to sign. And I sent that to him in a reply email. And that I want to get paid for the loads. I want a document guaranteeing that I'm going to get paid for everything that's still owed to me for all the loads I have delivered. So that means I didn't get paid last week for the load I delivered. And I haven't got a statement yet this week for the loads I delivered. And then I got one load this week that I delivered yesterday that'll go on next week's statement. I want to make sure that I get paid for all my work, right, and labor. So what's probably going to happen, because these last three companies are screwing me over, I'm probably going to have to hire an attorney, find an attorney to deal with this, this issue, because this is a horrible issue dealing with these Chicago companies. Let's face it. Let's really break this down very simply, right? These Eastern European / Russian-esque, Ukrainian, Estonia, whatever companies they are, for these dudes, man, it's a lot of nepotism. They typically, for the most part, only hire within their nationality, right? Generally, right? 'Cause a lot of them are from different countries, but the same exact region, and they only hire each other. For the most part. Okay. Now they hire a bunch of American drivers and then they just screw us over. But they don't screw each other over for very much. They do to a certain extent, but not very much. But like when you go into one of their offices, it's all there is there. I have seen before, like at Caracas, Dulcia, she's now FM is cool people, man. FM is cool people who runs Caracas. But even his office is all nationally concerned is from where he's from. that part of the world, anyways. With the exception of Docia, who's a Mexican lady from Chicago. I like Docia. Docia was cool people. She got mad at me when I left, but that's all right. No hard feelings for her. Anyways, but that's really what they do. They only hire each other and, their own people. And they keep it really tight. They network really well together. And then they just screw over Americans. This seems to be the case, right? From my experience anyways. And I know other guys who've been screwed over, and other guys who have been screwed over. It's actually common practice for them to just screw over American truck drivers. It seems to be the thing that they like to do because it's so widespread. There's such a huge, I guess, stigma about it, but the stigma is true, unfortunately, and they earned their reputation. So now, it was kind of disappointing that Cargoboss sent me that letter, because they are they don't want people talking about them, obviously. And I'm just gonna tell the truth. I mean, other than them not having PC, and other than that horrible dispatcher I had, I didn't have a horrible time here. All right. When I needed to get the truck taken care of, they put me in a different truck, and they put me in a nice truck. I was waiting for an RGN, never got the RGN. I was on the list for that. They do have some pretty nice equipment here, but it's in a yard, and it's all full of these Russian-esque Eastern European companies, excuse me, and it's all the same stuff, man. And it's just, they promise you these astronomical gross numbers, and it rarely ever pans out. I hit the average one time out of all my settlements. One time. Only went home twice, and only hit that thing one time. So, anyways, I got a ridiculous offer. So we're going to talk about that here in a minute. That's another video. And stay tuned for that, because that is coming right up. Anyways, guys, guess what? Like and subscribe to the videos, man, to the channel. And the motto of the channel is always the same. We dispense good information that helps us make good decisions that bring about positive outcomes. That's what we try to do here. I don't want to lie about anybody. I don't want to embellish or anything like that. I want to tell the truth. I want it to be accurate as far as my experience is concerned. And I don't know how they treated anybody else. Not really sure. But I'm going to tell you what happened to me. All right? It's not to disparage the company, but what needs to happen is you guys need to be aware. Everyone else needs to be aware. Do your due diligence. If you want to go to Cargoboss, go to Cargoboss, man. Maybe it'll be better for you than it was for me, okay? Who knows? I'm not on here trying to stop drivers from going there, because drivers are going to go there. There are worse companies in Chicago than Cargoboss. Believe me, that's a fact. So anyways, another video incoming. Deuces.